Ladies, let me ask you something. Are you paying bills each month out of fear, guilt, or confusion? Not because you know you legally have to? A lawyer recently told me something that left me stunned. Millions of older women are quietly handing over their hard-earned money for bills they do not legally owe, and no one tells them otherwise. In this video, I'm going to share exactly why this is happening and what you can do today to stop it. Stick with me until the end, because we'll go over the 5 most common bills seniors are tricked into paying when the law says they're not responsible. Part 1. The Trap of Guilt and Generational Conditioning. When I was a young woman, my mother drilled one rule into me. If you borrow, you pay. If you use it, you replace it. And if a bill arrives, you settle it. It was a matter of pride back then. Being responsible, being respectable. We didn't ask questions. We just did what we thought was right. But now, all these years later, that very mindset is being used against us. See, we weren't raised in a world full of hidden fees, digital scams, and shady debt buyers. We didn't grow up navigating phone trees, small print, and automatic deductions. We were taught to respect authority, even when authority didn't respect us. So what happens now? A bill shows up in the mail, or a collector leaves a stern voicemail, and that old voice in our heads kicks in. Don't make trouble. Just pay it. What if you're wrong and they come after you? Don't let your family be embarrassed. Sound familiar? That kind of emotional blackmail doesn't come from the companies. It comes from our own wiring. And let me be clear, just because you were taught to be decent doesn't mean the world plays fair anymore. These companies know we're wired this way, and they count on it. It's not just about money. It's about dignity. And that's exactly what they're trying to take from us. Quietly, one monthly payment at a time. Part 2. The Lies Debt Collectors Tell. Have you ever had a stranger call your house, speaking in a tone like they were your principal, and you were a naughty child? That's what a debt collector sounds like when they call an older woman. It starts off polite. We're just calling about an unpaid account. And before you know it, they're throwing around words like legal action and consequences. I remember one woman in our church group who got a letter for an old phone bill from her late husband's account, something from over 10 years ago. She was rattled. The letter had legal-looking seals, the words "final warning," and a fake deadline to respond. She was about to pay it until her granddaughter looked it up online. Turns out the debt wasn't even real. It had been sold, resold, and repackaged so many times that no one could prove who actually owned it. But the collection company knew what they were doing. They targeted her because she was older, alone, and grieving. And here's the part they'll never say out loud. You are not responsible for most debts unless your name is on the contract. If you didn't sign, you don't owe. And if they can't prove it in writing, you have no obligation to send them a single cent. But will they tell you that? Of course not. They bank on your fear. They count on your confusion. They make money from your silence. Part 3. Medical bills and the widow's burden. There's a pain that most people don't talk about. Not just the grief of losing someone, but the financial shock that comes with it. I still remember sitting across from the hospital administrator after my husband passed. He had been sick for a long time, and the care costs had ballooned. They handed me a bill. It was over $64,000. I looked at the number, and my heart dropped. I whispered, but I wasn't the one being treated. The man looked me dead in the eye and said, "As the surviving spouse, we expect you to handle this." And I almost did. I almost pulled from our retirement. I almost sold our second car. But something in me stopped, and I called a legal aid service first. You know what they told me? Unless you signed a treatment agreement or the state has specific spousal liability laws, you don't legally owe that medical debt. I was shocked. No one told me that in the hospital. No one told me that in the funeral home. No one told me that in the mailings that followed for months. I was expected to pay out of shame. out of love, out of ignorance. And I'm not the only one. I've spoken with widows who've emptied their savings, sold family heirlooms, and quietly struggled just to pay bills they legally didn't owe. Ladies, let this be your wake-up call. Don't let grief make you vulnerable. Always ask questions. Always get a second opinion, especially when they're asking for money. Part 4, Adult Children's Debts and Friendly Lies. This is the hardest one to talk about because it involves people we love. Let me say this clearly. You are not financially responsible for your grown children, not their loans, not their credit card bills, not their medical debt, not their failed business ventures. But that's not what the world tells us, is it? No, the world says, if you're a good mother, you help them out. If you don't help, they'll be homeless or in jail. It's just a signature. Mom, I'll handle the rest. I've seen friends coerced, guilt, and emotionally manipulated by their own children. It starts with a tearful phone call and ends with your name on the loan. And guess what happens when they don't pay? You're the one they come after. You're the one with the ruined credit. You're the one being called at dinner time by a stranger demanding payment. I even knew a woman, a grandmother, who found out after the fact that her son had used her name to lease a car. She thought it was junk mail when the notices started coming in. By the time she figured it out, they were threatening to repo her vehicle, too. You don't owe anyone your stability, especially not children who've learned to use your love like a weapon. Part 5, Nursing Home and Aged Care Facility Fees. Let me tell you about one of the cruelest tricks I've ever seen. A woman in my community, Jean, 76, helped move her sister into a nursing home. She wasn't the legal guardian, just the closest living relative. When the paperwork came, the staff handed Jean a stack and said, "Just sign here to authorize the move-in." Standard stuff. So she did. No one explained that she had just signed a guarantor form, making her personally liable for any unpaid fees. When her sister's finances ran out 8 months later, Jean started getting letters, cold, legal letters, demanding over $18,000 in outstanding care costs. She was floored. She hadn't lived there. She wasn't on any payment plan, but they had her signature, and that was enough. Here's the truth. Aged care and nursing home facilities will often bury financial liability into long forms because they know many older women won't question it. They'll say, "You're not agreeing to pay anything." But buried deep in the fine print, a clause saying you're responsible if the primary person can't pay. And once you sign it, it's hard to fight it. So let me say this loud and clear. Never sign anything you don't fully understand. Ask for a copy. Take it home. Call a lawyer or a legal aid service. They might make you feel rushed, but rushing is how they win. You should never go broke trying to care for someone else, especially when the system is set up to trick you into paying. Part 6, Utility and Subscription Scams Aimed at Seniors. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you checked your bank account for tiny charges you don't recognize? I'll be honest, for years, I didn't. And when I finally did, I was stunned. I was paying for a second Wi-Fi plan I never approved, a magazine subscription I hadn't read in 8 years, and a $12.99 monthly charge from a streaming service I never even watched. Turns out I'd either forgotten to cancel a free trial or signed up by accident when clicking a pop-up. But here's what makes it worse. When I called to cancel, they made it nearly impossible. One company transferred me 5 times before hanging up. Another said I had to cancel in writing by mail in 2025. Here's what lawyers and consumer protection experts are saying. Many companies specifically target older adults because they know we're less likely to check our statements or fight small charges. It's called subscription creep. They bank on the idea that you'll be too busy to notice, be too polite to challenge them, Be too confused by the cancellation process to follow through. But $12.99 here, $8.99 there. Over time, that adds up to thousands of dollars lost for absolutely nothing. Ladies, sit down, pull out your statements, and highlight every single charge you don't recognize. Then cancel ruthlessly. You don't owe these companies your money just because they made the process difficult. Part 7. Funeral homes and predatory prepaid plans. This one makes my blood boil. We've all seen the commercials. Take care of your family by planning ahead. Lock in today's prices. Ease the burden for your loved ones. Sounds noble, doesn't it? But what they don't tell you is that many prepaid funeral plans are loaded with loopholes, exclusions, and zero guarantees. Let me share what happened to Marlene. She'd bought a prepaid funeral plan in the 1990s. Fast forward 30 years, she passed, and her daughter was shocked to find the funeral home demanding another $4,000 to cover modern costs. What happened to the locked-in prices? Turns out, the plan had a clause that let them adjust fees after a certain number of years, something Marlene never knew. And her family didn't have the strength or time to fight during their grief. Another friend told me her plan included a cremation, but when the time came, the funeral home claimed the transportation costs and earned extras, adding $2,200 to the total. These places prey on women who just want peace of mind. They know we're planners. They know we care about our families. So they dress up their scams in emotional language. Here's the rule. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. If you're going to prepay, do it through a regulated, government-approved provider, not a fly-by-night chain with sales quotas. Because after all your careful planning, you deserve to rest in peace, not leave your family in debt. Part 8. So what can you do? And what I did. Now, at this point, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed. I know I was. I remember sitting at my kitchen table with a stack of bank statements, debt letters, and notes scribbled on envelopes. I felt tired, embarrassed, like I'd failed somehow. But then I stopped myself and said, "No, this isn't your fault. This system was built to confuse you, but you're not powerless." Here's what I did, and what I urge you to do. 1. I booked a free consultation with a local legal aid center. They explained my rights clearly, patiently, and told me exactly what I didn't have to pay. 2. I went through every bill and bank statement for the past 6 months. I found over $300 in recurring charges I never authorized. I canceled every single one. 3. I wrote a list of every debt collector who'd contacted me, and I asked for written proof. Half of them never responded. The rest, most couldn't provide it. So I paid nothing. For I spoke to my children openly and firmly. I said, "I love you. I'll always be your mother, but I will not be your bank." And here's the beautiful part. Within a few months, my stress started melting away. I wasn't scared to check the mail anymore. I wasn't afraid of the phone ringing. And I started sleeping through the night for the first time in years.